Welcome to the No Name Brand Podcast. My name is Sashka Hanarappel, actress, singer, dancer, turned brand marketing, sales, and advertising strategist who brands your soul. And each week I bring you an inspiring person or message to help you discover your undergod, turn up your leadership notches, challenge the status quo, because you're fast and furious with a powerful message to share with the world. Thank you for taking time out with me today, and without further ado, let's get our creative and wisdom juices flowing. Dudes, dudettes, welcome back this week. How the heck have all of you been? Now, I hope you've been expanding and growing despite ups and downs, and of course, shining your light. Now, that's something that our next guest does well, shine their light. Now, who remembers the song, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." And what I love about our next guest is that she's sought after because of her playful approach to meditation and transformation work. I mean, come on! Who's been through some transformational work? It can get deep and heavy, right? Sometimes downright uncomfortable. And we all know that laughter is the best medicine. But how does one meditate playfully? This got me intrigued, which is why I got our next guest on the show today to cure my curiosity, because y'all know how my curiosity works. But our next guest didn't always help gorgeous souls get unstuck and reignite their enthusiasm in life, love, and work. Nope. Our next guest wanted to rubber stamp books as a librarian. Then the door swung way to the other side, as she decided perhaps being the president would be more exciting. But then when she realized that that meant being famous, she changed her mind and decided she wanted to become a spy. But she cannot tell us for sure if this is true because, well, you know how that goes with spies. In the end, she opted to mimic Gru from Despicable Me because, like him, she captures humanity in all its foils so well. How even when we are evil, we really want to be good. And what's not to love about that? So without further ado, let's meet our next incredible, fun-loving, presidential spy-loving and shining light, the only one, Jenifer Pennell. Hello, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Sashka? Thank you for that really funny introduction. I had no idea you were going to go through all of my childhood dreams and aspirations.
I tell you what, it's actually one of my first questions because what I wanted to start off with, because I haven't met anyone that actually wanted to be a spy as much as I wanted to be a spy. You know, James Bond, Austin Powers, Inspector Clouseau, Mission Impossible. I mean, it's so cool to meet another spy, but we won't tell anyone because you know how it goes with spies. We don't tell anyone. No. But tell me, what intrigued you to wanting to become a spy? Because sometimes we adopt some traits from wanting to be a spy. I don't know if it works like with you. Like if I write something on a note block, I make sure that the second and third page that no one can rub pencil over to see what I was writing. I mean, I do ridiculous things sometimes. I'm always covering my traces. Are there some traits that you've adopted, taking with you, moving forward?
Absolutely. I mean, I think I read every detective novel I could as a kid, right? You know, and then I think I went to like this serial killer novels or, you know, whatever, espionage novels as an adult. I actually love the detective part of it. There's the investigator, the clues, the like, what's behind that? Like, what's motivating that person or that group or that organization to do what they're doing? And I think that's the piece where like, I love the peeling back of the onion deeper and deeper and deeper. And yeah, sure, I'd love to have a stiletto in hand for some reason, but you know, that's not part of my suburban mom persona. So
is that Jennifer walking past or was that the spy, Jennifer?
Right. I would say in my everyday life, yeah, absolutely. The investigative quality is just something I've never let go of.
That's amazing. So you're kind of like the person when you're working with your clients or even with your kids, you've always got the bigger picture view. And then you start chunking down and start seeing, okay, well, maybe this related to this one and this one came over here and this one's moving over here. Is that how your mind works?
Oh, absolutely. And then it's like, and what's the question that's going to unravel all of it?
And I will be the president of everything.
But you will never know.
Oh, that's brilliant. So tell me, in the beginning, I was speaking about shining. So share with us and the listeners. So what is it that you are actually known for? Like, where are your areas of expertise besides spying?
Absolutely. So after a career as an executive search consultant, which is really a headhunter, I found meditation. And it's a whole long story, which I'm happy to share if that's something that we end up doing. But I had arrived at this point in my life. I was, 35. I had the successful corporate career. I had the loving husband, the 2 kids, the dog, the white picket fence, you name it. And I had arrived at what was the American dream, right? And I looked around and I was miserable, absolutely miserable. And I didn't know why. I really had no idea. I had everything. I literally had everything. We traveled where we wanted, when we wanted. Like, I loved my husband. And so I felt ashamed. Not only was I miserable, but I couldn't even tell anyone about it because, like, who was I, this person who had everything, to be unhappy with all of this love and abundance that was all around me, and I couldn't feel any of it. And it was a sobering moment.
Was it like an eat, pray, love moment where you're lying on the floor, in the bathroom and you're like, oh my God, my love is just and then you come to the realization and you just kind of like, so where did you go from there?
Totally. It was like death by 1,000 cuts. It had happened really slowly over time. And so by the time I was really deep, I kind of didn't even know how deep I was in it. And I remember going, okay, something has got to change. And I wasn't crying in the bathtub, but it was sort of like, what do I need to do? Do I need to, and I don't really do things halfway. So it was sort of like, do I need a divorce? Do I need to have an affair? Do I need to leave the country? Do I need to change careers? Like, whatever it was going to have to be big. Like, at that point, there was no sort of moderate move that I could see that was going to change things. And lucky for me, before I made any of those moves, I stumbled. It's actually like meditation found me. I had no idea. And if you had asked me the year before, like, a year from now, you're going to be meditating, I would have laughed. I would have spit my drink out and laughed in your face. And somehow it came and it found me and it took a hold and I grabbed on. I mean, it was like a life preserver. And I had never thought about it. But once I grabbed on, I felt like I was drowning, and it completely changed my life.
Wow.
I mean, and it's funny because I still have the same husband. I still have the same kids. I still live in the same neighborhood. I've changed careers, but that was a sort of a long, slow process. It wasn't kind of a revolutionary thing. And yet my relationship to my life is completely different.
That's amazing. So do you think, like, with meditation, because so many people meditate, I mean, usually the image that you have when you're meditating, sitting somewhere all Gandhi or something to that effect, just kind of like, oh my God, do I have to change like who I am to meditate? And then I have moments where I'm just like, okay, I'm going to serenely sit in front of my door and open it and have a gentle breeze. And then I imagine myself sitting on the floor doing this, but the dog will come and then it'll fart. And then the cat will come. You just kind of like, I just can't get into the space that I'm supposed to be so reverent. So is it more people that are in their head that you more connect with that help them? Or do you just work on the meditation? How does it work with you?
Yeah. So there's a couple avenues. And I think, one of the things, before I even go into that, like, one of the things that you're highlighting so perfectly is the thing, and part of why, like, I went in this direction of play, because you can do that. Like, you get to meditation and it feels so serious and, and it's so reverent. And it's like, you can almost see your brow furrowing, like, and now I'm going to meditate and it's going to be really good. And I am not going to have a single thought, It's
Yes.
like, you're lost.
You will have blank.
Totally, and it's like, when in fact, when I've had my deepest meditations, they've been like ecstatic joy. I mean, it's just this, like, these experiences that the universe and the landscape of consciousness is massive and fascinating and filled, and the fabric of it is joy. And so when I've had these experiences, it's like, oh, this is just so different than, like, mindfulness. I mean, the most boring word in the world. Like, this is so different than, like, eating one bite of food at a time and paying attention to it, right? Like,
that's a good breakdown of it. Yeah, exactly.
It's just, so it was like, how do we begin to cultivate the joy that's inherent? It is actually inherent and our birthright in our lives. Like, how do we do that? And so it's been this journey. So, when I work with people, there's a couple different ways. I work with people individually.
Mm-hmm.
And we do deep dives, right? Like this is the deep dive going in through meditation and really seeing it, like what's getting in our way, what's stopping you from really accessing your own joy. Like how are you self-sabotaging, or
how
and
not am I self-sabotaging
right,
myself?
exactly.
Let me count the ways.
Or even more insidious, where are the places in life where we're on autopilot and we don't even know it? We think we're full of all of these free will choices. And in fact, all we're doing, more than 80% of our life is running on autopilot. And if we just stop doing that, that could go a long way.
Yeah. Did you get that revelation on the autopilot being a headhunter? Where a lot of people, did you come across a lot of people where they're just like, oh my God, like, is there life in you? Is there like an on button by chance?
Totally. I wouldn't say that I got autopilot from being a headhunter, but one of the things that I saw was this repetition of patterns. So like, I was working with really successful high-end executives, and you could see as they were going to make these decisions, how often they would make them based on fear.
Oh, wow.
So it would be like, it's almost fear of success. It's like, I'm going to go into this job where I know how to do most of it and I can knock the ball out of the park and look really good. And if I was presenting an opportunity, it's like, well, this is where you're going to stretch your skills. This is where you get to the next level. And it's going to be visible. And there's these huge opportunities. And yeah, you could fail because you haven't done it before. That's when I just see people, you'd see them on this precipice and talking them through and having this relationship with them and watching them. And how many times when people said no, they would say no because they'd say, my wife or my husband doesn't want me to, or they give reasons, but in the end, it was fear.
Wow.
In the end, it was almost always fear. And that's part of the reason that I sort of made this switch, because it's really fulfilling to help people find successful careers and to find companies where they're going to get the best possible candidate. But it's so much more fulfilling to work with people at a deeper level where it's like, how can you not repeat that same pattern? How can you not, you say you want to leave this job because you've got that jerk of a boss. Well, guess what? Like if you don't figure out that pattern, you're going to go to the next job and 6 months later, you're going to realize you're going to have a same type of person in some sort of power over you. It may not be your direct boss, but that person is going to be still in your life somehow, some way.
Yeah, and resolving that. Yeah, that is so true. I had one
Yeah.
of those. I had a few of those. Thank God I had them, because they brought me to bringing industrial and organizational psychology first, and then delving into customer psychology, and then psychology, NLP, and just diving deeper and deeper and deeper. Did you find as a headhunter, I don't really like to generalize, but it would be really interesting to know, was it more men or women that were more fearful?
I suspect you already think you have the answer for this
one. Just slightly, but I'd like you to confirm.
I would say that fear expressed itself in different ways between men and women. So I'd say absolutely. I mean, generally women were more fearful. It's that risk. It's the comfort, the family, the doing the job well. It's the same thing. There's this great study. Well, actually it's horrible, but the great study is that, women will only apply for a job if they've got 8 out of the 10 qualifications. Men will apply if they have 3.
Wow. Really? That's incredible.
Yeah. So the risk-taking profile, and you can argue, the hows and whys of the social upbringing and all that. But in the end, these are really important things to know.
Yeah.
If you're looking for your next role, like, where's your risk profile? And can you stretch it a bit more?
Yeah. Did you feel sometimes when you were in the position of a headhunter? I love that name. I love that. It used to bring fear into I'm like, am I good enough for the headhunter?
If I cannot be a spy, I will hunt heads.
Winter's coming. Watch Game of Thrones, but that's pretty much what stayed in my head. Did you find that when you were interviewing prospects that you had the feeling sometimes, I want to do more over here, and you yourself felt so limited and didn't have the tools yet to work your magic? Like, how were you in those situations, and how did you empower yourself and conquer whatever, moving to the next level?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, I did feel limited because, the relationship, there's a certain level of trust you can build with somebody in context of that relationship as a headhunter. But in the end, I was retained by the corporation to find the best possible candidate. So even though I developed great relationships with my candidates, because they would become candidates on different searches, and I got to be quite close, there's sort of only so deep that you can go with somebody.
Yeah.
Unless people have invited you in, they don't necessarily want more.
That's true.
And you have to respect that. And I don't know everything anyway. So, you know.
Don't be so modest, Jennifer. Don't be so modest. I don't think so. We'll just take my word not for it.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, screw modesty. What's the point in that? That just doesn't help anyone.
No, you know so much. I mean, you channel, you're clairvoyant or clairsentient, or what are you?
Oh, I think I'm just a really good question asker. I mean, when I take people deep into meditation, there's all sorts of sort of metaphysical components, and it can get fairly mystical at times, but it's really about leading somebody through their own process. It's not about me telling them what's going on. It's asking the right questions so they have the realizations on their own, because I don't, anybody is going to know more. They've been living in their own life. They're going to know more about it. The question is, can I bring a perspective where they can see the forest for the trees in their life, rather than being so in it. So yeah, and I wouldn't profess to be a soothsayer.
But that is so true. I mean, I say the same things, is like, you have all the answers within you. As elusive as that sounds, you have all of them within you. It really is just asking the right questions. And I don't want to say, actually, because there's no right or wrong, it's just asking that question that really triggers challenging your status quo, where you're like, oh, hang on a moment. So I've been believing that all that time, and actually I could actually choose this. Do you then take them into meditation in that instance, or does it happen before and it's been nagging at me? How the hell do you make it playful? Like, spill the beans.
Yeah. So in terms of the questions, some of them happen before, some of them happen during the session. I mean, it sounds strange, but you actually dialogue during the meditation session in this instance. Yeah. So yeah, and it is great. It's so great fun for me. Somebody might have a really difficult experience and I always come out, I'm like, God, that was amazing. But yeah, play. So play is such a key component of it. And it's such a funny thing, because play can be anything, right? It's such a ubiquitous word. In so many things. It is sort of like, it's deceptive in how simple it is. Because the thing is that I'm not talking about play in terms of the action of play. What I'm talking about is like, how do you feel when you're in a state of play? Like, what is the feeling? Because play may mean something completely different to different people.
Yeah, some people think it's childish.
Totally. And actually, it's like when I started, I interviewed a whole bunch of women around this concept of play and the market. And I did all of this market research. And it came back and it was really amazing the reaction people would have to the word play, because it'd sort of be like, oh, that's indulgent. I have a serious life.
Wow.
I do serious things. And maybe like on day 3 of my vacation from 2 to 4 in the afternoon, I will play.
Wow.
Yeah.
How we've lost the art of play. That is incredible.
It was really incredible. And then when I'd start to ask the women, like, how do you feel when you're in the sense of play? Like, what does that feel like? And they would just light up. And it would be like, I feel light, buoyant. I feel uninhibited. I feel free. I feel immersed in whatever it is I'm doing. I'm not self-conscious at all. All of these words and adjectives. And then they'd stop. And it was like, oh, wait, like that's not a nice to have. Like those feelings are not nice to have. Like those, I want those.
Wow.
And so there was sort of this, for me as well, in doing the market research, of sort of seeing the way that we've made it a bad word somehow, or we find it a luxury or an indulgence to actually feel really good. That instead, how we think we need to operate in life is in this really kind of serious, like we're going to, push the boulder up the mountain kind of way. And it's just, it doesn't have to be like that. And yet somehow we've adopted it and we've taken on these belief systems. And especially I think it's probably even more so for women, because women tend to like take care of everyone around them before they think of themselves. And, and then it's like,
I don't know what you're talking about. I never
like, if you were to ask, a mom, like if you had 3 hours, spontaneous 3 hours with nothing to do, and you're not allowed to do anything on your to-do list. What do you do?
I always wanted to pick my nose, but I haven't done that since I was a kid. No, not really.
Get in there, dig in.
What do the women say? Like, where do they go with that? That must be like, so, oh my God, the pearly gates just opened. Am I in heaven? Or is this like a joke?
Yeah, it's confronting. It's actually quite confronting to realize that we've lived a large chunk of our lives without this. And you can almost feel the way that like you start to become rigidified and like you start to feel these feelings of like lightness and buoyancy. And it's like, you can almost feel it like nourishing your body, or like all of a sudden people start to feel like fluid, it's like the creakiness is moving out and people light up, they get excited, they're enthusiastic.
That's so cool.
It's so cool. And go ahead.
Yeah. It's so what?
Oh, so like I was talking, and it's really funny because like when you haven't been in it, it's like the muscle atrophies, right? Like, so if you haven't allowed yourself to be in play, it atrophies.
Wow.
And we forget to even how to do it. And I was talking with a friend of mine about this, who she and I were very playful in our 20s. We worked together at this executive search firm, and we would play practical jokes on each other. We were just really kind of silly. And it was a really high pressure job. So it made it all the more fun and really lightened it on tough days. So we're reconnecting, and we're both moms. She's had kids who both have moved on. And she's like, oh my God, I'm so far away from that person. I'm so far away from who I was. And she's like, and the crazy thing is that when you talk about it and the fact that I've lost this sense of play, she's like, the thing is, my first thought is like, oh, this is a problem. I better go do something serious about it.
Whoa. What a brilliant realization. That is incredible.
And she's like, doing something serious about it is probably the worst thing that I could do.
It's like, no, we're not going to paper punch now. No.
Yeah, exactly. So what I started to do is I started to develop these workshops, and they're workshops for women, and they're called Permission to Play.
Oh, wow.
And we just go into it. And again, for some people, it's different. For some people, it's like, it's the permission to be messy or outrageous or emotional. But for some people, it's permission to be quiet and to like just sit and doodle or draw, or it's just finding like, what is this thing that's going to kind of feed the soul and bring you into a place where you're really fully present, because you can't half-ass play.
Yeah.
You can't have like a play on words. You can't be deep in conversation with somebody. You can't be in the midst of this sense of play and be on your phone and distracted and texting somebody else.
Yeah. Driving and texting. No, not a good one.
No,
it's going to be a crash somewhere along the line, people. Is this where you bring in your system? Because you've got a system called IST.
IST. So IST is a more traditional modality with the meditation, where it's the one-on-one work, and that it's called Interspaces technique, which probably means nothing to most people in the world. But it is a really
NASA.
Yeah, right.
What?
It used to be called ISIS. It was like, that is just a really bad idea now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not a good idea.
Many years ago. So that modality is actually the one-on-one work. That's where we go deep. So in the workshops, it's really finding these expressions of play and then finding out what's getting in our way. And then in the one-on-one work, we can dive deep into sort of, let's find like who you are when you're not getting in your own way. So like, yeah, there are these obstacles that get in your way, and yeah, we can look at those. But what I really care about with somebody is finding like, who are you when they're not there? And who are you like when you were 12 years old, before you had any responsibilities and you could just be you?
Who are you now?
Who am I now? That's a great question. I feel like I'm more me than I ever have been before.
Oh, who's me?
Who's me? I know. It's such a great question. Who am I? I still want to be a spy.
Oh, cool. You'll start a spy club. I'll join you.
I know. And I think that's it. I think like, it's like bringing that, it's who I am is what I want to bring to people. And I'm not trying to get away from answering your question, but like when I started doing these workshops for women, one of the women's was a teacher at my daughter's school. And she said, can you come do workshops for the girls? Wow. And so I started doing, they're really sort of like support empowerment workshops for 7th and 8th grade girls. So they're 12 and 13. And we got there and we were having these different discussions. And it was sort of this thing of, what does life feel like when you're not supported? What does it feel like when you are supported? What's the voice that stops you from bragging and feeling good about yourself? And the things that they shared and how early it hits, like, I've got nothing to brag about, or people don't care what I have to say. Like, it's hit by 7th grade. And I sat in those first workshops and I'm like, that's it. Like, this has got to change. This has absolutely got to change. So when you ask sort of who I am, I'm a person who's going to be part of that. Like, I want to be, and I will be the person that helps people and continues to help people step into who they are. Who gives a shit what anyone else thinks? Like, just step into it and live fully and be in full permission of however and whoever you want to be.
I love that. I love that. One of my questions I have for all my guests when we're nearing the end is, how do you want to change or challenge the world doing what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said it. I want to change the world by people really feeling fully alive and feeling like they're in full permission to the life of their choice.
Really delving into that, even if they don't know who it is or who they've been told who they are.
Yeah. And when I sat with these girls and we talked about what it felt like when you're supported and when you feel really loved and supported in the people of your life, and then we extrapolated out those feelings and we said, what if everybody in the world felt that way? What do you think would happen? And they came back and they said, world peace.
Wow. Wow.
One person at a time.
That's incredible. 12, 13-year-olds starts.
And they can be our change. Like, if we can help them to be the change agents, wow.
That's such a cool name, change agent. Oh, I like that. I think I'm going to adopt. You heard it here first from Jennifer on the No Name Brand podcast. Jennifer, I would love to hear from you, your take on 3 of my values and fill in the blanks.
Ooh, fun.
Creativity for you is?
Creativity is playing with inspiration.
Oh, cool. Passion for you is?
Passion for me is rapture with will.
Rapture with will. Expand.
Yeah, it is surrendering yourself to sort of the rapture of the universe, but you've got to bring your own willpower to it. You've got to meet it. Otherwise, it will pass you by, and then it's not passion. It's just fleeting.
Wow.
You've got to own it and dig in.
That was good. I like that. I like that one. Wisdom for you is?
Wisdom is having the beginner's mind. The beginner's mind, constantly seeing the same thing in a new way, cultivating that wonder and curiosity.
I think those are the best answers I've had up to date, but won't tell anyone because this isn't live or anything. No, just recorded.
Oh, Sashka, thank you. They're great questions. They're such great questions.
I have one more question for you because I'd really like to know. So what is a topic? I know those were the end of the episode questions, but I'd really love to know, what is a topic that you really want to expand on, but haven't had the opportunity to explore and feed leadership thoughts into?
And feed leadership thoughts into. What I really would like to do is to explore, like taking play the next step and exploring the shadow side of play. Like really bringing, how do you bring the shadow? How do we own all of these forces within us? So even the ones that are capable of sort of violence or great emotions of great magnitude, or the ones that we push down and repress, how can we bring those forward? And how do we make those our allies in making us bigger, better, broader people for the world and inspiring others?
Love that. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for being here with us today. It was so awesome meeting you.
Thanks, Sashka. Thank you. I appreciate so much of what you're doing with your podcast and who you're bringing out here. It's really amazing.
Thank you. Oh, man. And you can find out more about Jennifer in the show notes. So you can find out her favorite book, her favorite quote, on social media, the website, and you can get in contact with her and have some giggles with her as well. Download her free gift. Yeah, just find out more about it. She's actually really rad. She's in Arizona at the moment, and I'll have to put a screenshot. She's got such a cool picture behind her at the moment. Like, well spotted, Jennifer, well spotted. Have an awesome day, and keep going, keep shining your light, because we need that.
Thanks, Sashka.
All right, take care. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Dang, that was just supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I enjoyed having you on board, and please do me and you a favor. Head on over to iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. Click subscribe, and a super bonus, leave your review and you stand a chance of being announced and advertised on the show. I'm always striving to ensure that your brand is uplifted and empowered. Remember, done is better than perfect. So be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and send in your feedback too. You're the absolute best. Keep rocking.